Before you spend another quarter, stop for 1 second and look at it closely. Because some of the coins passing through everyday pocket change are carrying stories most people never notice. Stories about war, freedom, music, farming, immigration, and the birth of America itself. One quarter may show a tiny sailboat crossing the ocean. Another hides one of the most famous mint errors in modern coin history. One celebrates the sound of jazz and country music, while another captures the exact moment George Washington risked everything during the American Revolution. And here's the craziest part. Millions of people have owned these coins without realizing some versions are worth far more than 25 cents. Tonight, we're traveling across America through some of the most fascinating quarters ever released by the United States Mint. From Rhode Island's ocean waters to the bright lights of New York, from Wisconsin farms to Tennessee music halls, every coin in this collection tells a story stamped into metal forever. Some are beautiful. Some are rare. And some change modern coin collecting completely. So grab your coins, check your pockets, and stay until the end. Because one of these quarters might already be sitting in your home right now.
By the time the Wisconsin State Quarter entered circulation in 2004, the 50 State Quarters program had already become a national obsession. Families were checking every handful of change. Kids carried collector maps to school. Coin jars across America suddenly became treasure chests. But nobody expected one ordinary-looking Wisconsin quarter to become one of the most talked-about modern coins in the country. At first glance, the design looked simple and honest. A dairy cow stood proudly beside a wheel of cheese and a tall ear of corn. The image represented the hard-working agricultural heart of Wisconsin, a state famous for farming, dairy production, and rural American traditions. Across the top appeared the word Wisconsin, along with the year 1848, marking the year the state joined the Union. At the bottom sat the date 2004, the year the coin was minted and released into circulation. To most people, it was just another quarter. But collectors soon discovered something strange. Some Wisconsin quarters appeared to have an extra leaf on the corn stalk. At first, people thought it was damage, maybe scratches, maybe dirt. But the more collectors examined the coins, the more obvious it became that something unusual had happened during the minting process. Two different versions started appearing. One became known as the high-leaf variety. The second became known as the low-leaf variety. And suddenly, one of the biggest modern coin hunts in America had begun. People searched through bank rolls late into the night. Coin dealers checked thousands of quarters, hoping to find the rare versions. Online auctions exploded with excitement as collectors realized these era coins could be worth far more than 25 cents. Some examples sold for hundreds of dollars. In high-grade condition, certain coins reached even higher prices depending on demand and certification quality. The story behind the era created even more mystery. Some experts believed the extra leaf was caused accidentally during the die preparation process. Others believed the marks may have been intentionally added by someone working at the mint. Over the years, debates continued inside the coin collecting world, but one thing became certain. The Wisconsin extra leaf quarter had become legendary. And here, what made the story so fascinating. The era itself was tiny. Most people could hold the coin in their hand and never notice anything unusual. That's what transformed the coin into such an exciting discovery. Treasure was hiding in plain sight. Even today, collectors still search through old jars and circulation rolls, hoping to uncover one of these rare Wisconsin quarters. Every new discovery keeps the story alive. But the Wisconsin quarter isn't valuable only because of the era. The design itself represents something deeply American. The dairy cow symbolizes generations of farming families waking before sunrise every single day to work the land. The cheese wheel celebrates Wisconsin's world-famous dairy industry. The corn reminds people of the agricultural backbone that helped feed the nation for generations. This wasn't a coin about skyscrapers or politics. It was about ordinary, hardworking people. That connection gave the quarter a warmth many collectors appreciated immediately. The coin also reflected a unique moment in American history. During the early 2000s, the state quarter program brought millions of new people into coin collecting. Children learned geography by searching for different states. Parents and grandparents shared collections together. For many Americans, these quarters became more than money. They became memories. Road trips, family vacations, searching couch cushions for missing states, opening fresh rolls from the bank, hopping to complete a collection. The Wisconsin quarter became one of the defining coins of that entire era. Collectors also began studying mint marks carefully. Coins produced in Denver and Philadelphia sometimes displayed differences in strike quality and appearance. Uncirculated examples with sharp details became especially desirable. Coins graded at the highest mint state levels often sold for significant premiums because so few survived without marks or scratches. Then came another layer of excitement. Counterfeits. As values increased, fake Wisconsin-era quarters started appearing online. Some people attempted to carve fake leaves into normal quarters, hoping to fool buyers. Experienced collectors learned to examine the leaf shape carefully, checking placement, texture, and metal flow around the design. That danger only added to the legends surrounding the coin. Because whenever money enters the picture, so does risk. But despite the hype, auction prices, and collector frenzy, the Wisconsin quarter still tells a simple story at its core. A story about America's farmland. A story about families working through cold winters and early mornings. A story about how one tiny minting mistake transformed an everyday coin into a national treasure hunt. And maybe that's why collectors still love it today. Because it proves something powerful. History doesn't always announce itself loudly. Sometimes it hides inside ordinary pocket change, waiting for someone curious enough to notice one extra leaf on a single ear of corn. For more than 20 years, Americans had grown used to seeing special designs on the backs of quarters. First came the State Quarters program, then the America the Beautiful series. Every few months, a new design appeared, giving collectors something fresh to search for in circulation. But in 2021, something unexpected happened. The United States Mint returned to one of the most dramatic moments in American history. And suddenly, the quarter felt powerful again. The 2021 Washington crossing the Delaware quarter marked the beginning of a brand new era for modern American coins. While many collectors expected another series of rotating state or national park designs, the Mint instead introduced a bold historical image showing George Washington standing in a boat as soldiers crossed the icy Delaware River during the American Revolution. The scene looked intense. Washington stood tall against the freezing wind, while the river moved beneath the boat in dangerous winter conditions. His posture showed determination and leadership during one of the darkest moments of the Revolutionary War. Unlike many earlier quarters with softer or more symbolic designs, this coin felt cinematic. It told a story immediately. To understand why the design mattered so much, you have to go back to December 1776. At that time, the American Revolution was falling apart. The Continental Army had suffered multiple defeats. Soldiers were exhausted, freezing, hungry, and losing hope. Many enlistments were about to expire. British forces believed the rebellion was nearly finished. Then George Washington made a decision that changed history. On Christmas night, Washington led his soldiers across the icy Delaware River in a dangerous surprise attack against Hessian troops stationed in Trenton, New Jersey. The crossing was brutal. Freezing temperatures, ice packed into the river, darkness everywhere, soldiers struggling to move artillery through the storm. But the attack succeeded. Washington's victory at Trenton shocked the British and gave the American cause new life at a moment when defeat seemed almost certain. That moment became one of the defining symbols of perseverance in American history. And in 2021, it returned to the quarter. Collectors reacted immediately. Many people praised the detailed artwork and dramatic energy of the design. Compared to earlier modern quarters, the Crossing the Delaware coin appeared more serious and historically focused. It reminded collectors of classic American coin art from earlier generations. The obverse also featured a restored portrait of George Washington, originally designed by Laura Garden Fraser decades earlier. Many collectors considered it one of the most beautiful Washington portraits ever placed on a U.S. coin. Together, the front and back created a quarter that felt both modern and traditional at the same time. As millions entered circulation, Americans once again began checking their change carefully. Some people saved the coins simply because they admired the design. Others searched for mint errors, high-grade examples, or unusual strike characteristics. And soon, collectors started finding interesting varieties. Some quarters displayed die chips or doubling effects. Others showed strike differences between Philadelphia and Denver mint productions. Sharp, uncirculated examples with clean surfaces quickly became favorites among grading companies and modern collectors. Then social media added fuel to the excitement. Videos appeared online claiming certain 2021 quarters were worth thousands of dollars. While most circulated examples remained common, the attention pushed even more people into searching through rolls and pocket change hopping to find rare varieties or minting mistakes. And once again, ordinary Americans started paying attention to coins. That's part of what makes the 2021 Crossing the Delaware quarter important. It arrived during a time when many people thought coin collecting was fading. Cash usage had declined. Digital payments were becoming more common every year. Younger generations often ignored physical coins completely. But this quarter brought curiosity back. People stopped and looked closely again. The design itself also carried deeper symbolism. Washington wasn't shown sitting comfortably or celebrating victory. He stood facing danger. The river looked cold and unforgiving. The scene captured leadership under pressure rather than easy success. That message connected strongly with many Americans. History isn't only about triumph. Sometimes history is about surviving moments when everything seems lost. That's what Washington represented during the Delaware crossing. And maybe that's why this quarter became memorable so quickly. It reminded people that the American story was never guaranteed. The revolution could have failed. The country might never have existed. Everything depended on exhausted soldiers crossing an icy river in darkness while risking their lives for an uncertain future. Today, the 2021 Crossing the Delaware quarter continues circulating through stores, banks, and collections across the country. Some examples already sit protected inside holders and albums. Others move quietly from hand to hand without anyone noticing their historical significance. But collectors know better. Because this coin represents more than modern pocket change. It represents courage during impossible odds. It represents one freezing night that changed the future of a nation forever. And every time the quarter catches the light, the image of Washington standing against the winter storm reminds America how close history once came to turning out very differently. In 2001, as the state quarters program continued sweeping across America, one coin captured the energy, ambition, and emotion of an entire nation almost instantly. That coin was the New York State Quarter. Unlike many other state quarters that focused on nature or agriculture, New York's design felt bold from the very beginning. The outline of the state stretched across the back of the coin, while the Statue of Liberty stood proudly in front, holding her torch high above the skyline of history. Across the design appeared the words "Gateway to Freedom," a phrase that carried enormous meaning for millions of Americans and immigrants around the world. To understand why this quarter became so important, you have to understand New York itself. For generations, New York represented opportunity. Ships carrying immigrants crossed the Atlantic Ocean and arrived in New York Harbor searching for hope, safety, and a better future. Before many immigrants ever stepped onto American soil, they saw the Statue of Liberty standing in the distance. That image became burned into memory forever. For some families, that moment changed everything. People arrived with almost nothing: small bags, family photographs, a few dollars in their pockets, but they also arrived carrying dreams, dreams of freedom, dreams of work, dreams of building a new life in America. The New York Quarter honored that history perfectly. And because New York is one of the most famous places on Earth, collectors immediately paid attention to the coin. Even people who knew nothing about coin collecting recognized the design instantly. The Statue of Liberty wasn't just a New York symbol anymore. It had become an American symbol recognized across the world. The timing of the quarter's release also mattered. The early 2000s were the peak years of the State Quarters program. Coin collecting exploded into mainstream culture. Banks handed out fresh rolls to eager collectors. Families built albums together at kitchen tables. Children searched through loose change after school hopping to find missing states. Every new quarter release felt like a national event. And New York stood out among them. The coin was minted in both Philadelphia and Denver, producing hundreds of millions of examples for circulation. Most entered everyday commerce immediately. They traveled through gas stations, grocery stores, vending machines, restaurants, and cash registers across the country. But collectors quickly noticed something important. Not all New York quarters looked the same. Some coins displayed stronger strikes with sharper details in the Statue of Liberty. Others showed softer lines and weaker impressions caused by heavy mint production. Over time, collectors began searching carefully for the best examples with clean surfaces and strong luster. Condition became everything. A heavily worn coin might remain worth only face value, but an uncirculated example with bright surfaces and crisp details could sell for much more. High-grade certified examples became especially popular among serious collectors trying to build complete state quarter sets. Then came the mint eras. And this is where things became even more exciting. Some New York quarters appeared with off-center strikes. Others showed die cracks, clipped planchets, or dramatic misalignments during production. While most errors remained uncommon, they created a growing community of collectors constantly checking their spare change for hidden treasures. People started looking at quarters differently. Before the State Quarters program, many Americans ignored coins completely, but now every quarter carried the possibility of discovery. One unusual error or rare variety could turn ordinary pocket change into something valuable. The New York quarter helped fuel that excitement. Collectors also appreciated the artistic design itself. The state outline created a bold background, while the Statue of Liberty added emotional power to the image. The words "Gateway to Freedom" transformed the coin from simple currency into a message about American identity and immigration history. Few quarters in the entire series carried that level of emotional connection. And yet, the coin also represented modern New York. A state known for financial power, towering skyscrapers, Broadway lights, busy streets, and non-stop movement. From Wall Street to Niagara Falls, New York contains some of the most recognizable locations in the country. The quarter captured that importance in a design small enough to fit in the palm of a hand. For many collectors, the coin became personal. Some remembered parents or grandparents arriving through Ellis Island decades earlier. Others connected the Statue of Liberty to family stories passed down through generations. The quarter wasn't just metal anymore. It became memory. As years passed, millions of New York quarters became scratched, worn, and damaged through circulation. Coins disappeared into jars, drawers, and forgotten collections, but high-quality examples survived, protected inside folders and albums by collectors who understood their historical importance. Today, the New York State Quarter remains one of the most recognizable coins from the entire 50 State Quarters program. Not because it's the rarest, not because it's the most expensive, but because it represents something larger than money. It represents arrival. It represents hope crossing the ocean. It represents generations of people chasing freedom beneath the torch of Lady Liberty. And every time one of those quarters changes hands, that story continues traveling across America, one pocket at a time. In the world of American coins, some designs shout for attention with giant monuments, famous leaders, or dramatic symbols of power. But the 2001 Rhode Island State Quarter did something completely different. It chose peace. At first glance, the coin almost looked too simple compared to the others in the State Quarters program. A small sailboat drifted calmly across the water beneath the nickname the Ocean State. No giant buildings, no dramatic battle scenes, no crowded design packed with details. Just a boat, open water, and quiet confidence. But that simple image carried centuries of American history hidden beneath its surface. When the Rhode Island Quarter entered circulation in 2001, millions of Americans immediately noticed how different it felt from many of the other state coins. There was something calming about it. The design looked clean, balanced, and timeless. Collectors appreciated that simplicity because it captured the true spirit of Rhode Island better than any complicated artwork ever could. Rhode Island may be the smallest state in America, but its influence on early American history was enormous. Long before modern highways, airplanes, or giant cities existed, Rhode Island depended on the sea. Fishing boats crossed its waters every morning. Merchant ships carried goods through its harbors. Coastal trade helped local communities survive and grow during the colonial era. The ocean shaped everything. That's why the quarter's sailboat matters so much. It represents independence, exploration, and the connection between Rhode Island and the Atlantic Ocean that has existed for centuries. The coin's peaceful design reminds collectors that America's history was not built only through wars and politics. It was also built through trade, travel, fishing, and ordinary people making lives beside the water. The quarter also honored an important historical fact many Americans forget. Rhode Island was the last of the original 13 colonies to ratify the United States Constitution. While the new nation was forming after the Revolutionary War, Rhode Island hesitated longer than any other colony before officially joining the Union in 1790. That independent attitude became part of the state's identity forever. And somehow, the sailboat captures that spirit perfectly. When the coin was released as part of the 50 State Quarters program, it quickly became popular among collectors. Families searched through pocket change, trying to complete their maps and folders. Banks handed out fresh rolls to eager collectors hoping to find shiny, uncirculated examples before they became damaged in circulation. Like most state quarters, the Rhode Island coin was produced in both Philadelphia and Denver. Hundreds of millions entered circulation almost immediately. Grocery stores, gas stations, restaurants, and vending machines spread the coin across the country within weeks. Most people spent them without thinking twice. But collectors looked closer. Some noticed differences in strike quality between coins. Certain examples showed stronger detail in the sailboat and waves. Others appeared softer due to heavy mint production. Collectors searching for perfect high-grade coins carefully examined every mark, scratch, and tiny imperfection. Condition became critical. A heavily circulated Rhode Island quarter usually remained worth face value, but bright uncirculated examples with sharp details and strong luster often carried premiums among collectors building complete state quarter sets. Then came the search for mint errors. Error collectors examined Rhode Island quarters, hopping to discover off-center strikes, die cracks, clipped planchets, or double strike mistakes. While major Rhode Island errors remained relatively uncommon, even small minting flaws attracted attention because the state quarters program had created millions of new collectors hungry for discoveries. And that's what made the early 2000s such a special moment in coin collecting history. Suddenly, everyday Americans started paying attention to coins again. Children learned geography through quarters. Parents explained state history around kitchen tables. Grandparents passed down collecting habits to younger generations. What had once been considered an old-fashioned hobby suddenly became exciting and modern again. The Rhode Island quarter played an important role in that movement. Its design stood apart because it didn't rely on flashy imagery. Instead, it created emotion through simplicity. Looking at the coin almost feels like standing beside the ocean at sunset, watching a sailboat drift quietly across the water while waves move beneath the wind. That peaceful feeling helped make the coin memorable. Over the years, many Rhode Island quarters became scratched and worn from circulation. Others disappeared into jars, drawers, and forgotten piggy banks. But collectors who protected high-quality examples preserved tiny pieces of American art and history at the same time. Today, the Rhode Island State Quarter remains one of the most elegant designs from the entire series. Not because it's rare, not because it's expensive, but because it tells a story quietly. A story about the ocean. A story about independence. A story about one small state that helped shape the early history of the United States. And maybe that's the real beauty of this coin. It proves that sometimes the strongest symbols are not the loudest ones. Sometimes a small sailboat crossing calm water can carry an entire state's history inside a single quarter. In 2001, while millions of Americans searched through their pocket change, hopping to complete their growing state quarter collections, one coin quietly stood apart from the rest. It didn't feature skyscrapers. It didn't show famous monuments or military victories. Instead, the Vermont State Quarter celebrated something much simpler. Nature, hard work, and the peaceful traditions of rural America. The moment collectors saw the Vermont Quarter for the first time, many instantly fell in love with the design. A peaceful countryside scene stretched across the back of the coin. Trees stood tall against the horizon, while a man collected sap from maple trees beside a horse pulling a wagon through the snow. Above the scene appeared the words, "Freedom and Unity," Vermont's official state motto. And beneath, everything sat two important dates: 1791 and 2001. The year Vermont joined the Union, and the year the quarter was released into circulation. The design felt calm, honest, and deeply connected to American tradition. At a time when modern life was becoming faster and more digital every year, the Vermont Quarter reminded people of an older America, one built on farming, nature, and communities working closely with the land. The coin specifically honored Vermont's maple syrup industry, one of the most famous agricultural traditions in the country. For generations, families across Vermont collected sap from sugar maple trees during late winter and early spring. The process required patience, skill, and hard physical work. Sap had to be gathered carefully and boiled down slowly to create pure maple syrup. That tradition became part of Vermont's identity, and the quarter captured it beautifully. Unlike some state quarters packed with multiple symbols competing for attention, Vermont's design felt balanced and peaceful. Collectors appreciated the artistic detail, especially the snowy landscape and the strong sense of atmosphere surrounding the scene. Looking at the coin almost felt like stepping into a quiet winter morning deep in the countryside. When the quarter entered circulation in 2001, Millions were produced by both the Philadelphia and Denver mints. Banks distributed fresh rolls across America as collectors rushed to add Vermont to their growing state maps and albums. Children searched through change after school. Parents checked cash registers carefully. Coin collecting had suddenly become exciting again. That excitement was exactly what made the State Quarters program such a historic success. Before the series began in 1999, many Americans rarely paid attention to coins. Quarters were simply money used for vending machines, parking meters, laundromats, and everyday purchases. But the State Quarter series changed everything. Now every coin carried a story. And Vermont's story felt especially personal to many Americans because it represented values people still respected deeply: independence, hard work, simplicity, and connection to nature. Collectors also noticed differences in quality between circulated and uncirculated examples. Coins that stayed protected inside albums often retained bright luster and sharp detail, while heavily circulated examples became scratched and worn over time. High-grade Vermont quarters eventually gained attention among collectors building premium state quarter sets. Then came the search for mint errors. As with nearly every major coin release, collectors examined Vermont quarters closely, hoping to discover unusual mistakes. Some searched for off-center strikes, die cracks, doubled dies, or clipped planchets. Most Vermont quarters remained common circulation coins, but even the possibility of rare errors created excitement. People looked at their spare change differently now. Every coin carried potential. That possibility transformed ordinary Americans into treasure hunters almost overnight. The Vermont quarter also carried a deeper historical meaning many people overlooked. The words freedom and unity reflected an important idea in early American history. Vermont valued independence strongly, but it also believed communities could work together while protecting personal liberty. That message still felt powerful in modern America. And somehow, the quiet, snowy landscape on the coin captured that balance perfectly. No giant cities. No dramatic battles. Just ordinary people living close to the land while building communities together. As years passed, millions of Vermont quarters disappeared into circulation. Some became damaged through everyday use. Others sat forgotten inside jars and drawers for decades. But collectors continued protecting the best examples carefully. Today, the Vermont State Quarter remains one of the most peaceful and artistic designs in the entire series. It may not be the rarest quarter. It may not sell for huge amounts like certain famous era coins. But it represents something timeless. A slower America. An America of forests, winter mornings, horses, maple trees, and hardworking families. And maybe that's why the Vermont Quarter still feels special today. Because in a fast-moving modern world, this small coin reminds people of something many thought had disappeared long ago. Quiet simplicity. By 2002, the State Quarters program had already become one of the most successful coin series in American history. Millions of people were collecting every new release, but when the Tennessee State Quarter entered circulation, something immediately made it different from the others. This coin didn't celebrate buildings. It celebrated music. The moment collectors saw the design, they understood exactly what the quarter represented. 3 musical instruments filled the back of the coin: a guitar, a trumpet, and a violin. Flowing across the design were musical notes and the words, musical heritage. It was more than a quarter. It was the sound of America stamped into metal. Tennessee has always held a special place in American music history. From the smoky hills of Appalachia to the bright stages of Nashville and Memphis, the state helped shape some of the most influential music genres ever created. Country music, blues, gospel, bluegrass, rock and roll, and soul music all carry deep Tennessee roots. The quarter honored that incredible legacy perfectly. The guitar represented country music, especially Nashville, often called Music City. For decades, Nashville became home to legendary performers, songwriters, and recording studios that changed American entertainment forever. The trumpet symbolized the powerful blues and jazz traditions connected to Memphis, one of the most important musical cities in history. Memphis gave birth to musical revolutions that spread across the world. The sounds created there influenced generations of artists and listeners. Then there was the violin, often called a fiddle in country and folk music traditions. That instrument represented the Appalachian heritage of eastern Tennessee, where mountain music and storytelling traditions passed from one generation to another long before radio or television existed. Together, the three instruments told the story of Tennessee itself. And collectors loved it. When the quarter was released in 2002, people immediately noticed how energetic the design felt compared to many earlier state quarters. The instruments almost seemed alive, as if music were rising directly from the surface of the coin. The design also included 7 stars surrounding the instruments. Those stars represented Tennessee becoming the 16th state to join the Union in 1796. That historical date connected the modern music legacy to the state's early American roots. Like all state quarters, the Tennessee coin entered circulation through the Philadelphia and Denver mints. Millions were produced, and within weeks they spread across stores, gas stations, restaurants, and banks nationwide. Most people simply spent them, but collectors searched carefully for the best examples. Some Tennessee quarters displayed strong, sharp details in the strings of the guitar and the shape of the violin. Others appeared softer because of heavy production and worn dies during minting. Serious collectors examined every coin closely, hoping to find flawless uncirculated examples with bright surfaces and minimal contact marks. Then came the error hunters. Because wherever large numbers of coins are produced, mistakes can happen. Collectors discovered off-center strikes, die cracks, weak strikes, and other minting errors among certain Tennessee quarters. While major errors remained rare, they created excitement throughout the coin collecting community. People started checking every quarter they received in change. And that was exactly what made the state quarters program so powerful. Before the program began in 1999, many Americans barely noticed coins anymore. Quarters were simply money, something to spend quickly without a second thought. But now every state quarter carried history, art, and the possibility of discovery. The Tennessee quarter especially connected with people because music itself connects with emotion. Nearly everyone has memories tied to songs, family road trips, first dances, late-night radio stations, church choirs, concerts, old vinyl records spinning in living rooms. Music becomes part of life. And Tennessee's quarter captured that truth beautifully. Collectors also appreciated the balance of the design. The instruments filled the coin without appearing crowded. The flowing musical notes added movement, making the quarter feel dynamic instead of static. Many collectors still consider it one of the best artistic designs from the entire state quarters series. As years passed, millions of Tennessee quarters became worn down through circulation. Scratches covered the surfaces, details faded, coins disappeared into jars and forgotten collections. But high-quality examples survived. Certified mint state Tennessee quarters with strong luster and clean surfaces became increasingly desirable among collectors building complete high-grade sets. Some especially sharp examples sold for impressive premiums compared to ordinary circulated coins. Yet the true value of the Tennessee quarter was never only about money. It was about identity. This coin celebrated the sound of American culture itself. From bluegrass in the mountains to blues on Beale Street, Tennessee helped shape the soundtrack of generations. That's why this quarter still matters today. Because every time someone holds it, they're holding more than 25 cents. They're holding echoes of guitars inside Nashville studios. They're holding the sound of fiddles playing deep in Appalachian hills. They're holding the rhythm of blues music flowing through Memphis streets late at night. And somehow, all of that history fits inside one small quarter, traveling quietly from hand to hand across America.